Hello, class. Today we'll be reading chapters 11 and 12 of The Chocolate War, and go ahead and get going. Chapter 11. It was as if somebody had dropped the bomb. Brian Kelly started it all when he touched his chair. It collapsed. Then everything happened at once. Albert LeBlanc brushed against a desk as he made his way down the aisle, and it fell apart after trembling crazily for a moment. The impact sent out vibrations, which shot down two other chairs and a desk. John Lowe was about to sit down when he heard the noise of collapsing furniture. He turned and in doing so touched his own desk. The desk disintegrated before his astonished eyes. Leaping backward, he hit his chair. Nothing happened to his chair, but Henry Couture's desk behind it shivered violently and tumbled to the floor. The racket was deafening. "My God," Brother Eugene cried as he entered the classroom and beheld the bedlam. Desks and chairs were falling apart as if being demolished by mysterious, unheard dynamite explosions. Brother Eugene rushed to his desk, that haven of security behind which a teacher always found protection. At his touch, the desk swayed drunkenly, shifting gears into a lopsided position and, miracle of miracles, remained upright at the strange tipsy angle. But his chair collapsed. Boys scrambled madly and merrily around the room. Once they realized what was happening, they dashed around room 19, testing all the desks and chairs, watching with glee as they fell apart, and toppling the stubborn pieces of furniture that refused to go down without help. "Wow," somebody yelled. "The vigils," somebody else called out, giving credit where credit was due. The destruction of room 19 took exactly 37 seconds. Archie timed it from the doorway. A sweetness gathered in his breath as he saw the room being turned into shambles. A sweet moment of triumph that compensated for all the other lousy things, his terrible marks, the black box. Witnessing the pandemonium, he knew that this was one of his major triumphs, one of those long-shot assignments that paid off beautifully, certain to become legend. He could picture Trinity students of the future discussing in wonder the day room 19 exploded. He found it hard to suppress a howl of delight as he surveyed the havoc. "I made this happen," and saw Brother Eugene's trembling chin and horror-stricken expression. Behind the brother, the huge blackboard suddenly tore loose from its moorings and slid majestically to the floor like a final curtain dropping on the chaos. "You!" Archie heard the voice in all its fury at the same instant that he felt the hands spinning him around. He swiveled to encounter Brother Leon. Leon wasn't pale at this moment. Scarlet splotches glistened on his cheeks as if he had been made up for some grotesque stage show. A horror show, maybe, because there was nothing funny about him at this moment. "You!" Leon said again, a wicked whisper that spilled into Archie's face, the foul aftertaste of Leon's breakfast, the smell of stale bacon and eggs. "You did this," Leon said, digging the fingernails of one of his hands into Archie's shoulders, while pointing to the chaos of room 19 with the other. Curious students from other classes had now gathered around the two entrances to the room, drawn by the crash and the clatter. Some of them regarded the rubble with awe. Others glanced curiously at Brother Leon and Archie. No matter where they looked, it was great. An interruption of school routine, a diversion in the deadly order of the day. "Didn't I tell you I wanted everything to go smoothly? No incidents, no funny business?" The worst part of Leon's fury was the way he whispered, this terrible, tortured hissing from his mouth, giving his words a tone more deadly than a shout or a yell. At the same time, his grip on Archie's shoulder got tighter, and Archie winced with pain. "I didn't do anything. I didn't promise anything," Archie said automatically. "Always deny everything, never apologize, never admit anything." Leon pushed Archie up against a wall as the boys began to fill the corridor, pouring into room 19 to view the destruction and milling around outside, talking and gesturing, shaking their heads in wonder. The legend had already begun. "I'm in charge, don't you see? This entire school is now my responsibility. The chocolate sale is ready to start, and you pull something like this." Leon released him without warning, and Archie hung there as if suspended midair. He turned and saw some guys staring at Leon and him. Staring at him! Archie Costello, humiliated by this sniveling bastard of a teacher. Sweet moment of triumph, spoiled by this nut and his ridiculous chocolate sale. He watched Leon storming away, pushing his way through the tumultuous corridor, disappearing into the swarming stream of boys. Archie massaged his shoulder, gingerly feeling the spot where Leon's fingernails had bitten deep. Then he thrust himself into the crowd, pushing aside the guys gathered near the doorway. He stood at the entrance, drinking in the beautiful debris of room 19, his masterpiece. He saw Brother Eugene still standing there in the midst of the shambles, tears actually running down his cheeks. Beautiful. Beautiful. Screw Brother Leon. Chapter 12. "Try it again," the coach bellowed, his voice hoarse. The danger point. His voice always got hoarse when he lost his patience, when he was in danger of blowing his top. Jerry picked himself up. His mouth was dry and he tried to suck spit into it. His ribs hurt, his entire left side was on fire. He stalked back to his position behind Adamo, who played center. The other guys were already lined up, tense, waiting, aware that the coach wasn't happy with them. Not happy. Hell, he was furious, disgusted. He had arranged a special practice, giving his freshmen a chance to scrimmage against a few members of the varsity to show off all he had taught them, and they were doing lousy, rotten, terrible. There was no huddle. The coach barked the number of the next play, a play designed to suck in Carter, the big, beefy varsity guard who looked as if he could chew freshmen up and spit them out. But the coach had said, "We'll have some surprises for Carter." It was tradition at Trinity to toss star players against the freshmen to build plays designed to stop the stars. This was the only reward the freshman team reaped because most of them were too young or too small to play varsity. Jerry crouched behind Adamo. He was determined to make this play work. He knew that the previous play hadn't worked because his timing was off, because he hadn't seen Carter come crashing out of nowhere. He had expected Carter to blitz, and instead the big guard had pulled back and skirted the line, annihilating Jerry from behind. What infuriated Jerry was that Carter toppled him gently, lowered him to the ground almost tenderly, as if to prove his superiority. "I don't have to murder you, kid. It's easy enough this way," Carter seemed to be saying. But this was the 7th consecutive play, and the damage of being tackled play after play was taking its toll. "All right, guys. This is it. Make or break." "It's all over, fellas," Carter taunted. Jerry called the signals, hoping his voice sounded confident. He didn't feel confident. And yet, he hadn't given up hope. Every play was a new beginning, and even though something always seemed to go wrong, he felt that they were on the verge of clicking. He had confidence in guys like Goober and Adamo and Crocchio. Sooner or later, they had to click. All the work had to pay off. That is, if the coach didn't cut them all off the squad first. Jerry's hands were joined like a duckbill's, waiting to swallow the ball. At his signal, Adamo slapped the ball into his palms, and Jerry began to fade at the same instant. To the right, slanted, swift. His arms already coming up, ready to be cocked, ready for the pass. He saw Carter snaking through the line again, like some monstrous reptile in his helmet. But suddenly Carter became all arms and legs, tossing and turning in the air, hit devastatingly low by Crocchio. Carter collapsed on Crocchio, and both of them fell in a tangle of bodies. Jerry felt a sudden sense of freedom. He continued to fade, easy, stalling until he could spot the Goober, tall and rangy, downfield where he'd be waiting if he had managed to elude the safety man. Suddenly, Jerry spotted Goober's waving hand. Jerry avoided fingers that tore at his sleeve, and he unloosed the ball. Someone brushed his hip, but he shrugged off the blow. The pass was beautiful. He could tell it was beautiful, straight on target, even though he couldn't watch its progress, because he was dumped violently to the ground by Carter, who had somehow recovered after being demolished. As he hit the ground, Jerry heard the yells and cheers that told him the Goober had caught the pass and had gone on to score. Good, the coach's voice, raucous in triumph. Jerry struggled to his feet. Carter slapped him on the ass, signaling his approval. The coach lumbered towards them, still scowling. But then he never smiled. "Renault," the coach said, all hoarseness gone. "We just might make a quarterback out of you yet, you skinny little son of a bitch." With the fellows standing all around him and his breath coming in gasps and Goober arriving with the ball, Jerry knew a moment of absolute bliss, absolute happiness. There was a legend in the school that the coach hadn't accepted you as a player until he'd called you a son of a bitch. The guys lined up again. Jerry was sweet poetry and music as he waited for the ball to be slapped into his hand. When he returned to school after practice, he found a letter scotch-taped to the door of his locker, a summons from the vigils. Subject, assignment.